Hello everyone, my name is Olga, and in today's video I would like to discuss a topic of remedial measures in Vedic astrology. Remedial measures, or Upayas as they are called in Vedic astrology, are the certain actions that you can do in order to improve the quality of certain planets in your chart. So in this video we'll talk about why and how remedial measures work, what are different types of remedial measures, and touch on different philosophical concepts that are important for us to understand in order to understand how the remedial measures work and why they work. We'll also touch on kind of the right set of mind that we need to go into before we decide to do these practices. So with this video, I would like to open a series of videos on remedial measures. I will go into each and specific planet and we'll touch on the practices for specific planets starting from the Sun and finishing with Ketu. But this is just an introduction video and I highly recommend to watch this video first before you dive into any specific video for a specific planet. So let's begin. In general, it's important to understand that remedial measures or Upayas, these techniques are very unique to Vedic astrology. They don't exist in Western astrology. And the idea that there is this practical side of astrology where you can do something in order to change your understanding of the planets in your chart, in order to change the way you relate to the planets in your chart and improve your life experience somehow. It is a very unique and specific thing about Vedic astrology. It's one of my one of the favorite topics to discuss. And in the my readings, when I give readings to the clients, if the client is open to this, I usually give and suggest some form of remedial measure at the end, towards the end of the reading. Some of these techniques I did myself and I will share personal experience of doing them. However, everyone's experience, I assume, is going to be very different. So please go into it with an open mind and have very minimal expectations. So in order for us to understand how remedial measures work, it's important for us to go into this concept or the idea that Vedic astrology considers planets as living deities, living beings. So it is called, they are called grahas in Sanskrit, which means to grasp or to seize, which that basically means that there is a kind of like a living entity that seizes the consciousness and causes it to have a certain experience. Now, I don't think it's actually quite literal, like something seizes you. And in fact, it's just a samskara or something like a past life experience that is causing your life, is causing you to perceive life in a certain way. This perception, the way you relate to life, is what's reflected in your birth chart. So your birth chart is basically a summary of all past experiences, of all your past deeds, which caused the planets positions in your chart to be a specific way, specific arrangement. Now, when you do these actions, when you do these remedial measures, and you sort of build a relationship with a graha or a deity that's related to it, because it is kind of like a living being, kind of like a consciousness of itself, you can make offerings to it, you can build dialogue with it, you can receive messages from it, if you will. But this is the also important understanding that grahas, they're almost like gods, or almost like deities, and you kind of making it through remedial measures, you're making offerings to deities of these planets. Another important concept to consider before having this going into remedial measures is that it transfers the responsibility from outside circumstances onto you, which is very, very ideal, because what is in your chart, it's nobody's fault but yours. It's not for you to feel guilty or blame yourself for it, but it's also kind of a very empowering in order for you to understand that if you caused this experience or these positions in your chart, it's up to you to change it. It's up to you actually to have more self-awareness and more understanding of how your actions or thought patterns led you to have this experience or led you to have this position in a chart, and what you can do to change in order to change it. And which brings us to The next topic of this is, well, how many things are predetermined in Vedic astrology, and can you change anything or everything? And we'll touch on this concept of different types of karma in Vedic astrology. Different types of karma suggest that there is a Sanchita karma, which is kind of like a storehouse of all the karma from all the past lives that you've accumulated. However, in this lifetime, you can deal with only a small chunk of that entire karma called prarabdha karma, and this is what's reflected in your birth chart. So when you go to astrologer and astrologer analyzes your birth chart and looks at the chart, essentially we are looking at your prarabdha karma. Now, prarabdha karma can be fixed, unfixed, and mild. So there is certain things that are fixed and going to kind of sort of hard to change. However, you still can work with it through remedial measures and change it in order to kind of alter your perception of it. Mild karma, which can kind of go either way, and not fixed karma, which is also it's easy to change if you try a little bit. And finally, there is also Kriyamana karma, or karma of free will. This is the karma that you create with your decisions and your choices every single day. Every moment of your life, you're making a certain decision on how you want to live your day, and this essentially creates your future life. It creates kind of the foundation for your next tomorrow. This is Kriyamana karma, or free will. The choices of today are going to be the choices of tomorrow, and eventually they're going to be your future birth chart. I would like to touch on general guidelines in terms of how to approach when you beginning to do a certain upaya. First of all, having an attitude of non-attachment is very important. Don't expect some specific results from performing upaya. Actually, having any expectations, it's kind of a general advice which is good for any situation. Really, to having expectations is kind of setting yourself for a failure. So having this attitude of non-attachment is very, very important. If you are expecting to have certain results by certain time, you are kind of missing the point and doing it wrong. The idea is to improve the quality of the planet through a repetitive action, through a repetitive sadhana or spiritual practice in your life. And in order for you to do it, you will need to have this kind of letting go attitude, no expectations, no attachment attitude. Another point I wanted to touch is don't expect quick results. It takes time for the energy to build up over time. It takes time for the upaya to start taking effect. In order for you to kind of build up that energy, it takes a little bit of time. So don't feel like nothing is happening or you are expecting something very quick. Just have patience, have non-attachment, have this mind of no expectations as well. And also, if you're going to be watching videos for very specific planets, I will be going through a variety of different remedial measures you can do for a specific planet. It's important for you to choose just one remedial measure that you feel like you can do over an extended period of time, instead of choosing 3 or 4 and just quitting them, doing them in 3 or 4 days. So choose one practice that you can do sustainably over a period of time, and then keep going and repeat. And if you feel like after doing one you want to do something else, you are free to choose something else. So next one, let's go into different types of remedial measures. And the first type we're going to talk about is mantras and chants. So mantras and chants basically mantras or hymns for a specific planet. You are chanting it, you're pronouncing it for a certain, usually for 108 times at a time. And it is advisable to have a mala with 108 beads that you can use in order to help you count 108 times of pronunciation of the mantra. Now, the mantra is very important that you pronounce it correctly, and you kind of when you create a sound with your tongue, when you create a sound with your mouth, you're creating a certain vibration in your body. And this vibration is actually, this is what has the healing effect. You are modifying the vibration that you have, and you are kind of, through the sound, working with the chant, you are changing the vibration or relationship with a certain planet. Gemstones therapy, or Ratna Upaya, based on the idea that certain gemstones are related to specific planets, and wearing a gemstone can improve the quality of that planet or increase the quality of this planet. With gemstones, it is important to understand that when you're wearing a gemstone, it is increasing the qualities of that specific planet in your life. I'm going to talk about these gemstones in my videos, but I advise highly to get a reading with the astrologer before getting gemstones, because they can be quite costly, and if you choose not the right one, you can actually hurt yourself. The gemstone has to be chosen with a lot of care. Aside from certain gemstones being advisable for certain lagnas and certain gemstones not being advisable, it is also important to look at the quality of the planet in your chart and making sure that the way it's positioned is not going to have an adverse effect. Gemstone, though, is almost like calling the experience of that planet in your life, so it is equal to having a planetary period of that planet. So gemstones should be worn at a specific time, on a specific finger, if you're wearing rings, or it can be just like a necklace. It should be a specific type of stone, not heated, treated in a special way. It should be an astrological gemstone in order to have those healing qualities. Not all gemstones are going to have that. Like, not every ruby or not every yellow topaz will work in this specific case. It has to be astrological stone, which has to be non-heated, and it should not have any markings. The setting of the stone should not change the integrity of the stone. So the stones where the setting goes right through the middle and kind of the stone is just like hanging on a thread, is also it ruins the stone essentially. And so the settings, it's important to have setting where the stone touches your skin and does not change the integrity of the stone. And the stone, of course, should not be heated as well. There are some more expensive ratnas or more expensive gemstones, like diamonds or blue sapphire, but there are also more cheaper, more affordable versions of every ratna that can be used in order to have a benefic influence. Working with the yantras. Now, yantras are geometric forms that represent planetary energy, and there are numerical yantras and there are like more graphic yantras. Some of the yantras, you can gaze upon them in order using your while you're meditating or while you're chanting a mantra. Gazing at the yantra will enhance that particular meditation, although it's not required. You can gaze at the yantra or you can just chant the mantra separately. Charities and donations. I love this one too. The idea is that different societal groups relate to different planets, and you can give donations to a certain group of people in order to propitiate that planet. For example, you can give donations to students, that is related to Mercury. You can give donation to children or sick children in the hospitals, and that will work on your Jupiter. And you can also give donations to widows, for example. That is actually a remedial measure for Rahu. So this is another great one. The next one is fasting. Fasting on a specific day of the week that's related to a specific planet is also going to improve the quality of that planet. Fasting is the form of remedial measure that is related kind of to self-discipline and purification, and one of those practices that can give quite quick results. Homas or yagyas rituals, or pujas sometimes they are called, these are traditional Hindu ways or rituals performed when the grains are offered into the fire, and the fire offering is done for a specific planet. It can be for a deity as well. I'm a huge fan of homas and deities. We have a lot of Hindu temples here in California, lots of opportunities to go and do them here. If you are living somewhere next to a Hindu temple that does the homas, I highly recommend for you to look into it. I almost never recommend it to my clients, though. I maybe recommended it once or twice in my practice, just because I understand that it's a little out there to go to a Hindu temple and ask somebody. People have different religions, they have different practices that they do it. And often when you do go to the temple, you're like the only white person. So it is a little bit of an experience that I would say maybe not for the average person. However, I've done it many times and I love this experience. It's very special and dear to my heart. And if you're open to it, and if you don't mind being the only white person in a Hindu temple, maybe this is an option for you. Not every Hindu temple will do homas or yagyas. So you have to ask around and do a little bit of research. I specifically like one in Malibu. There is a great Hindu temple there. We also have a number of temples here in San Jose. And there are different types of homas that it can be done for different planets. Sometimes they are not called for Jupiter or Mercury or this and that. They can be called homas like Mahamrityunjaya Homa or Sarpadosha Homa or Ganapati Homa for Ganesh or Ketu. So I will touch upon specific homas for specific planets. And the interesting part is that when you contact a temple in order to do a homa, they will give you a list, or a priest will give you a list of items to buy for the homa to bring to the temple. This list can be quite lengthy. It's maybe up to like 20 different items. And it might have specific things that you can get only in the Indian store. So the act of like buying and gathering all of these things together is already kind of like a part of this whole process and part of this upaya. You might be asked to bring some food items like milk and ghee and maybe some grains and some for some homas I went to an Indian store and I had to buy betel leaves, that I used in the ritual, and some other items. So this process of going and buying and gathering all these various 20 list supply is also a part of the upaya and a part of the process, and it already starts offering. It's absolutely magnificent experience. If you're open to it, I highly recommend for you to try it. But you might need to talk to the priest ahead of time, sometimes over the phone, sometimes over email, sometimes personally, arrange the date with them, agree on how much they would like to for their services, bring all the food and bring all the items on the list, and then homas will be performed for you. And finally, last but not least, is the practice of meditation and yoga. So meditation and yoga practice, they promote self-awareness and self-understanding. So this meditation can be specifically used in order to address a certain planets. For example, pranayams will be good for people who have positions in Swati, or probably good for people who have Mercury prominent in their chart and ruling. There are certain practices that are more suitable for your constitution or sort of your physical body, and these meditations can be recommended based on your chart, based on your planetary ruler, etc. So through meditation and through yoga practice, we cultivate the self-awareness and non-reaction. This ability to non-react to things that used to trigger us. This is where the healing happens, and this is the healing aspect of meditation and yoga practice as well. I'm using yoga and meditation interchangeably because the purpose of this practice is essentially a union with yourself, a union with the higher self, in order for you to be and radiate in harmony and balance with yourself. The practice of meditation helps you to cultivate a non-reactive mind, which instantly gives you a choice of how you want to proceed from a certain situation. And when reactions drop, this is when healing happens, any type of healing. Every disease, every difficulties are due to certain reactions. These reactions, they cause samskaras. These samskaras are actually reflected in our birth chart. So if you want, birth chart is kind of like an imprint of past reactions that has happened over a long period of time. So meditation and yoga, they help us to rise above these reactions and cultivate this non-attached equilibrium in order for us to have different experience moving forward. This is essentially how it works. So I hope you found this video useful. We covered on different types of remedial measures, different attitude or advice that I recommend to go into when approaching these remedial measures, and how and why they work. We talked a little bit on karma theory and different types of karma. And in the next video, I will go and dive deeper into the planet Sun and Sun remedial measures and what you can do in order to improve the qualities of it. Hope you like this video. Please leave me a comment, like, subscribe below, and if there is any specific thing that you would like to see on this channel, also do let me know.